And I'll start letting everybody in.
Hi, Karen. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Jip. Hi, Jeff. I was talking about you earlier.
Hey Dana, how are you?
Awesome. How are you doing?
Doing good. Hey there, Rebecca.
Hey, Jeff. So good to see you.
Yep. How was the land down under?
It was great. Very fun. The World Cup was a life once in a lifetime experience.
Oh, so you went to so you saw a soccer game.
Yes, I saw three actually. I got really lucky. I saw the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and the final. So
Good, very
amazing.
good.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
No problem.
All right. Hi, everyone. And I'm going to go ahead and while we're waiting for everybody to log in, I'm going to go ahead and do our little recap of our Zoom rules. All right. So welcome everybody to our lunch and learn, to our weekly lunch and learn. We a couple of Zoom rules are for refreshers. If you haven't joined in a while, please mute yourself when you're not speaking. We recommend speaker view for presentation. Video sharing is optional, though we love to see all your smiling faces. And please type all questions and comments into the chat as well. I know our amazing guest speaker today would love to hear from you. So you're welcome to chat and I can read out your comments in the chat. You can also, we're going to have a Q&A at the end. You feel free to unmute yourself and introduce yourself to our amazing guest speaker. Our Lunch and Learns are all about connecting every single week. That's why we do these. We want to hear from you and we'd love seeing your engagement. So a quick update from Autism Tree. We now have 493 new families that have come into our Autism Tree family since January 1st of this year, which is incredible. I can't believe we're almost at 500. It's definitely on track to be a record year. So welcome to all our new families. We offer 20 programs for those of you who might not know. 9 are currently in person, happening throughout San Diego County. We also have 7 hybrid and 4 virtual. So people outside of the county can also join these programs. We have over 200 events throughout the annual calendar year under these 20 programs. So there's lots to get involved in. It's all free for families who are affected by autism and their kids, and the whole family is welcome to attend. We have 13 family events coming up in September that we will be adding more. So check our social media for announcements. We always add more fun events for our families. We have events this week is our Fit and Fun workshop, which is this Sunday, August 27th. I hope I have that date correct. But yeah, it is super fun. It's happening at Savita Park, which is near Mission Valley, and all kids of all ages are welcome. We have 550 impact videos on our YouTube channel, including 129 of these lunch and learns. We can't believe it. We started these during the pandemic, and every single one is a treasure to us. And we record them all and we put them on our YouTube channel. And there's a whole playlist dedicated on our YouTube channel. So you can subscribe and get notifications of whenever we post our weekly lunch and learns. So that's it for me, but I want to pass it off to Dana Hoff, our executive director and co-founder, to introduce our guest speaker, Sally, today.
Thank you, Rebecca, and welcome back. I'm so happy you're home. For those of you that didn't know, Rebecca's been out of the country, and Erica has been doing a great job managing the many, many, many events that have been going on while Rebecca was gone. So I want to say thank you to Erica too, and thank you to everyone for being here. Before Rebecca went out of the country, we actually went to Sally's book event at La Jolla Library. So it was quite a gift. I love going to book signings, and I've been to so many. But what made Sally's really special and unique is she had us do a writing exercise. And I think that was really extra cool, Sally. I like how you brought a lot of different elements into the experience with you at La Jolla Library. And I'm so excited for all of you today to get to know Sally. She is local here in San Diego, out of La Jolla. And I just think it's nice to have an author who's local that can become part of our Autism Tree community. It means so much that Sally's working to have you be able to take your children or you to go into the library and have books that are written by someone with autism like Sally, especially geared to children. I don't think we've ever really had someone in our community to really kind of lead us in that direction and I mean grow a lot of wisdom from it. And I actually think these children's books are so fun too for adults as well. So I'm thrilled to have Sally in our community, and we really love having her be part of the Autism Tree family. And we're so excited to share and learn from Sally today. So thank you everybody for being here, and I'm turning it over to you, Sally.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I am so excited to have found all of you guys, to Dana and everyone. This is just like, you have the most amazing organization, and I'm super happy to be here and to be part of it. Yeah, so I guess a little bit about me. I was diagnosed autistic as an adult in just about 8 years ago now, I guess. And I live here in Encinitas, actually, just north of La Jolla a little bit. I have 3 grown sons. They are all neurodivergent. My middle son is a special ed teacher, a brand new one, whose first day is coming up on Monday, teaching at school. He's autistic. He was diagnosed as a kid, and it means so much to him to be back, giving back and bringing his experiences to bear. We have a lot of conversations in my family about how neurodivergence has affected all of us in different ways. So I feel like, and also I have always been a journalist. I've always written my whole life. I worked as a business journalist. I did corporate writing. I've done so many different kinds of writing. I have a master's in English Lit, and language and writing has always been like my thing. The one thing I could count on in life that I could get right, you know, and that my main way of communicating and expressing myself. So I guess it only became a natural thing as I got older and realized about my own diagnosis and, you know, my own struggles in life, and thinking about myself as a mom of autistic kids, as an autistic person myself, my own undiagnosed childhood. I guess it was just sort of inevitable that when I had the time and when I thought about what I really wanted to do, it was to try to write books and stories for kids like my own kids, and for kids like the child that I was, because we never saw ourselves in books, really. You know, it's hard when you don't see yourself reflected in literature, unless you are reflected as the kid that helps the other kids feel compassion, you know, or you're the comic relief, or you're the sidekick. You know, and that seemed to be the only places that you would see autistic kids in children's fiction. And so that is what started to become my mission to try to fix. And I have written a bunch of books now, and I'm joined by lots of other autistic, well, not lots, but some other autistic authors as well that are writing books about kids that are natural stories about kids that have adventures and go and do things, and have interesting experiences, and the stories are stories. And they happen to be about kids whose brains work a little bit differently. It's not the focus of the story, and it's not pathologizing, and it's just normalizing for everybody. And these are books for everybody, for all kids, but especially they're for our kids, and for kids the way I was a kid. Where you don't see, when you don't see yourself reflected, you feel like you don't matter. And these are books to help our kids know that they matter. And so, yeah, I guess I could start by just showing you some of the books. And I would like to show you my books, and I would like to introduce you to some other books in all kinds of different age ranges that you might find interesting. So So I guess I'll just go ahead and do that now. The first book I wrote was this one. It came out in 2017, and it's called The Someday Birds. And it won the Dolly Gray Award that in 2018 for it's a children's literature award for representation of disability in children's fiction. It's a story of a 12-year-old boy named Charlie who loves birds. He shares this passion with his dad, but Charlie, also being autistic, doesn't like to go outside or get dirty or see birds in the wild. He just wants to stay at home where it's safe and draw birds, with his colored pencils from his bird book. But he and his dad have this list of birds that his dad is hoping Charlie will go see in the wild someday with him. When his dad is injured in Afghanistan and ends up in a hospital across the country and he has to go, Charlie now has to leave behind all of his comfortable, orderly life in order to go with this strange babysitter he doesn't know, this driver lady that's driving him and his older sister and his two crazy little brothers, and they have to all go in this old camper to see dad. He figures the only way he can get through this journey, this disruptive journey, is to see if he can find every bird on the list that he and his dad were hoping to see together today. And maybe that would redeem the trip a little bit for him, make it, it would be a goal for him to do. And also it would be a gift he could give his dad. So it's a funny book. It's a light book. It's, perfect for anyone, like I would say 5th grade and up would really enjoy it. It's just a G-rated book meant for anybody, really. Charlie has a grandma, kind of a grumpy grandma that is a really loving relationship in the book. And I don't know. So that's The Someday Birds. And yeah, his brothers, like his family get upset with Charlie because of his autistic behavior sometimes, but it's so loving in the family. I think you might recognize, I know so many people have said they recognize their families in it, and that's made me really happy. I have another book that's set right here in San Diego. It's called Stanley Will Probably Be Fine. And Stanley is a highly anxious kid with sensory processing disorder, which is something I struggle with, and my son as well. And he loves comics. He's like a comics trivia fanatic. He really, really enjoys comics and knows everything about it. And he's in middle school, and his best friend has just ditched him. And he figures, well, I'm going to win my best friend back by doing something brave. They all think I'm such a coward and I can't do anything. So I'm going to enter this comics book trivia, there's a trivia treasure hunt all around downtown San Diego looking for clues. And when you solve all the clues in all the different places, and you can bring them in and win tickets to the big Comic-Con going on. So he decides to enter that and try to do that as a way to win back his friend. And it doesn't go exactly as planned, but he has quite the adventure. And then my latest book that came out last month is called The Fire, the Water, and Maudie McGinn. And this is a book about an autistic girl. Maudie is 14, and she spends most of the year with her mom and her stepdad in Texas. And there's some problems with a new stepdad. She spends summers with her father, who lives in California, and she loves her father. She would much rather be with her father. So she's with her father, but immediately things start to go wrong this summer, where she wants to be able to tell her father about the new stepdad who gets really angry at her and doesn't seem to understand her autistic behaviors. And there's problems and conflict and clashing, and there's abuse. He's angry and emotionally abusive, and sometimes even physically abusive against her. That's what she's dealing with. But she doesn't know how to tell the secret to her dad. And the whole summer goes by with horrible waves of change that hit them. They have to evacuate the cabin because of a wildfire. They end up staying in a camper by the beach that dad's buddy lends them for the summer. But there, everything starts to change, because she finds in this little camper community a real sense of community, of friends and family and people that view her just for her. And she decides she wants to try to learn to surf, because there's this competition. She could win money to help dad, maybe find a way to stay with dad. She's just obsessed with trying to find some way she could stay with her dad without having to tell him what's going on. But it's a story about knowing you have to be honest with yourself, and learning to tell, and learning to be brave, and to stand up for yourself, and to grow. It's her summer of growth and self-esteem. And yeah, that's Maudie. And coming soon in December, I have a new little book that's going to be coming out, and it's for younger readers, and it's called Ada and Zaz. And it's about Ada is a big sensory seeker, and Zaz is a sensory avoider. And it's illustrated so adorably by Rebecca Burgess, who is an autistic artist and illustrator who lives in the UK. And it's just the sweetest little book. It's just a little chapter book about how two friends find each other through pet mishaps and become best friends. So those are all my books. And I guess the common denominator is autism is part of the story, sure, but it's not the basis of the whole story, and it's not pathologizing. These are just stories of kids having adventures and coming up against life, learning how to be a person in the world. Which is what I think I was yearning for when I was an undiagnosed kid growing up. I just didn't know how to be a person in the world, and I wanted someone to teach me that really badly. And books and stories are such a great way in to helping kids learn that and discuss and ruminate on that in a way that's not threatening. And books and stories can help you have conversations with your kids that might feel too personal or too vulnerable otherwise. You can talk about the story problem of a kid having an emotional problem and a story, and it's not as intense and personal, and you can get at some real truths there. It's a lovely and wonderful way to share conversations that really mean something. So anyway, those are my books. And we have another hat. I'm an author, yes, and I do that most of the time, but I also spend a good amount of time working on a website that's called anovelmind.com. And I think all the books that I mentioned in the notes, we're going to put it in a PDF for you guys afterwards. But anovelmind.com is a website resource about mental health and neurodiversity representation in children's books. Pre-K to 12, to grade 12. So we cover picture books, middle grade, young adult, all those levels of books. We have a database with over 1,000 books where you can plug in things like eating disorders, young adult books, or you could plug in ADHD, preschoolers, and see what books will come out that might be useful to you depending on what you're looking for your child. And we have weekly blogs, and there's also all kinds of data resources for resource pages for teachers and librarians and parents as well. So it's worth checking out, and it's so fun to work on because I get sent lots of books by other people that want to be included in the database or for reviews. And I've discovered that there are a lot of really wonderful new books coming out. Even in just the past 5 years, things have changed a lot. So many more books of the kinds that I'm speaking about that don't pathologize kids, that aren't about, my brother Johnny, has this problem, but we love him anyway kind of books. No, there are all kinds of really great books about kids, just being natural. So I wanted to share some of those with you. In terms of, maybe we should go, let's see, I'll just grab some for the heck of it. Let's see. Let's start with Elle McNichol. This is sort of borderline middle grade YA. It's called A Kind of Spark. She's a Scottish author. This book came out in Scotland or in the UK a couple of years ago, and it's been a big hit TV show in the UK just this past year. It was a series that the whole country is aware of and has watched, and it is about an autistic girl who has an autistic older sister that have a really healthy, great relationship. Her older sister helps, sort of pull her along and gives her great advice. She has a loving family. But the problem is that she realizes her town she discovers the history of witchcraft and how she realizes that back in the 1500s in Scotland, in the 1600s, when they were having witch trials, most of those poor women that were persecuted back then were probably autistic or probably just had a mental health issue, and how wrong that was and how terrible that was. And she wants to raise awareness about that and right that wrong. And she's also having, you know, school issues of various sorts and everything. So these are the things that are driving the plot in this book. It's really a lovely book, really well written, very interesting. Maybe somebody would be interested in it. Let's see. Anne Ursu just came out this year with this book called The Troubled Girls of Dragomir Academy. And I have to say, I have not read it. I'm pretty sure Anne is neurodivergent herself, and she writes books about kids that are, but kind of in code because they're fantasy books. So if you like fantasy and adventure, this might be a really nice choice for you for finding some main characters that seem a lot like you. So Anne Ursu again. This is a lovely book. Again, this is a British author. I'm not sure why so many British authors. That's going to get corrected later. I have more books for you. But this was by Libby Scott and Rebecca Westcott. Libby is an autistic girl living in England. And this book just describes her. I think she's around 13 or 14. And it just describes those difficult years and her friend problems and everything in such a lovely, poignant way. You know, and she's not ashamed of being autistic, but it does complicate her life sometimes. And she talks about that. It's just a really sweet book. And she loves horses, and there are horses in that book. A lot of horses in that book. Here's a very interesting one by an author who lives around Washington, D.C., Mira Chan, this lovely, lovely lady. And she wrote a story recently, I think it was last year, called The View from the Very Best House in Town. And what made this book kind of interesting is the house itself is one of the characters in the book that narrates part of the story. And it is about a boy and a girl who are both autistic, but in different ways, and their friendship. And when their friendship has a break in it because of something that happens in that house, it's very, very devastating to the girl, especially, and to both of them. And it's about how they find their way back to the friendship and communicate with each other. It was a lovely book. I really enjoyed it. Let's see what else. Here is one by Lynn Miller Lockman, who is an autistic author that lives in New York City. It's called Moonwalking, and it's set back in the 1980s. And it is about a young boy who's autistic and his friend who loves music. And the two of them go to school together, and I haven't read it yet. It's on my list because I love Lynn Miller Lockman and her books. She has another book called Torch that just won the LA Times Book Prize for children's fiction. She is definitely an amazing author. And yeah, it's just the story of their friendship, and you get a look into both of their worlds. So that's a lovely book, especially if you like ones that are a little bit vintage, talking about the 1980s, what life was like then. Yeah, there are so many great ones, but I'm trying to stick with ones that came out just in the past few years. Let's look at some picture books, maybe. Should we do that? Where are we with time? We're good with time.
Yeah, you go.
Picture books. Here is one that just came out a couple months ago. Kaz Wintness is an autistic author and illustrator. She's an amazing, amazing illustrator. She teaches at an art college in Colorado. And Bitsy Bats, she's just starting to write a lot of picture books these days. All of a sudden, it's like an explosion of Kaz Wintness picture books. But Bitsy wants to go to school. She's going to school for the very first time. But she realizes, because she hangs upside down and she likes things differently from most of the other students who are all other different types of animals. So she has problems at school, and she has trouble fitting in. She has trouble complying with what the teacher wants. And it's how they find a little solution for that, and how Bitsy, instead of feeling bad about herself, can turn around and turn things upside down and realize that what she thought were her weaknesses are actually her strengths. So it's a lovely picture book, especially for a new kid starting out at school. Oh, here's mine. I forgot. Yeah, I wrote one other book. It's a picture book. It came out in 2018, and it's called Benji the Bad Day and Me. And it won the San Diego Book Award that year. It's Really cute, illustrated by Ken Min, who's this wonderful illustrator based out of LA. And it's sort of a autistic take on the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. So it tells the story of Sammy and Benji. Here's poor Sammy. He's had a horrible, horrible day at school. Nothing's gone right. Grr, he's just like so upset. But when he comes in his house, his mother tells him, shh, Benji's playing in his box. When Benji's in his box, it's because he's had a bad day at preschool. When Benji's had a bad day, we tiptoe and speak softly. When I've had a bad day, no one tiptoes or speaks softly. So this book is from Sammy's point of view, actually, about, when you're the autistic kid in the family, sometimes you get a little bit of extra, treatment. And Sammy is not the autistic kid in the family. So he feels a little bit left out, like nobody cares. He's feeling a lot of self-pity for himself. Benji likes to stay in his cardboard box when he's feeling overwhelmed. He has a special box that he and his mom and Sammy all built together for Benji, but it's only big enough for Benji. Sammy can't fit. Benji wiggles his fingers at me. Hi, Benji, I say softly. Benji's face appears. Wet Sammy, Benji says. Samuel, says Mama, there's water all over the floor. Take your shoes off this instant. It was not my fault I had to walk all this way in the rain. Benji's Block City is spread all around. Watch your step, Mama says. Benji's been working hard on that. I know, I helped, I start to say, but Mama's phone rings and she turns away. I stick my tongue out at the box. I do my best karate kick, high in the air, above Benji's Block City. Ka-cha! I've always wanted to learn karate. Mama says I can't right now because the classes are on Tuesdays, and that's when we have to visit the Happy Lady downtown. Let's bounce the ball, Super Happy Lady likes to say, but Benji never does. Let's play a game, but Benji never plays. Meanwhile, I'm told to sit in the waiting room and not bother anyone. On Super Happy Lady days, we always get back home tired, so Mama will make berry smoothies to help us feel better. Then she'll wrap Benji tight in his big blue blanket, just how he likes, and tell him, you're my little burrito. Whoops. But today, there are no berry smoothies and no burritos. Today, Mama is busy and Benji is hiding. This day is just plain old rotten. Bump goes the box. It's Benji kicking around in there. Hey, I say, come on and I'll teach you karate. But he doesn't. So I go to the kitchen and pour some cereal, but when I add the milk, too much gushes out. I am grumpy, hungry, and cold, and now there is milk everywhere. I've had it with this fence-kicking, rain-dripping, milk-spilling day. I cry mad, sad, shivery tears. No one cares. This is Benji in his box with the shadow on his face, and he's looking out the window of the box. Bump. Benji's coming out. He holds his blanket up high and tiptoes through the Block City. Benji spreads his blanket on the floor. What's he doing? He pulls me down on the fuzzy blueness and makes me lie straight and still. Then he rolls me over and over. He works hard to wrap me up tight. Benji leans over me. His forehead clunks my forehead. His eyes look right in my eyes. You're my little burrito, he tells me. I open the blanket and let Benji in. You're my little brother, I tell him. And that's how Mama finds us. Can I come in too, she says. Whether the day is good or bad, Benji and I will be okay. That's because the two of us are brothers. Side by side is where we are and how we'll always be. So that's just an example of Benji. that's just Benji. I guess I just decided to read it. But we had the time, so I hope that's okay. But yeah, just getting at the feelings of the family and, being honest about everybody in the family and their feelings. And that was just one example. And talking about feelings, here's another one that I absolutely love. It's by Brittany Winley, The Boy with Big, Big Feelings. We'll take a look inside just to show you. I won't read every book, I promise. But there once was a boy with feathery hair and a heart that was bursting with feeling. His emotions seemed bigger than everyone else, and sometimes they made him go reeling. It's really cute, but it really gets at talking about our feelings in a lovely way. So this is a good one. What else is good? Oh, here's a fun one by Samantha Cotterill, who's an autistic author and illustrator who lives in upstate New York. She's lovely. I adore her. And the book is called It Was Supposed to Be Sunny. And she has a series of a few of these books. I think there's 3 or 4 of them. And she calls them her little senses books because they get at the sensory processing issues that we deal with a lot. So here in this one, It Was Supposed to Be Sunny. It's a little girl who is planning her birthday party, but instead of it being a nice sunny day, boom, crash goes the thunder. And she has to completely abandon her plans for her outdoor birthday party and figure out some kind of alternative at the last minute. And of course, that is a very hard thing to have to do. So it's about how she works through that. Let's see. Here's another one by Lynn Miller Lockman called Ways to Play. And this just came out, I think, about a month ago. Lynn, again, was the author of the other book that I showed you, Moonwalking. This is her first picture book for younger kids. She has twin grandchildren, so I think that's influencing what she writes about lately. Riley likes to line up dolls and stuffies by size and shape, or tear up newspapers and make piles into mountains, or use sharp crayons to draw big swirly patterns. But bossy cousin Emma thinks those are wrong ways to play. Luckily, Charlie the dog is on hand to show that there are many different ways to play. There's bossy cousin, I guess. So there's that one. Oh my goodness, I'm getting a big stack here to tell you about. This is such a lovely book, and I just love the illustrator's work on the art. Look how beautiful that is. Look at his hair, and the coloration of the book is so soft and pretty. A Friend for Henry by Jen Bailey. In classroom 6, Henry is looking for a friend who shares, who listens, maybe even a friend who likes things to stay the same and all in order like Henry does. But in a day full of too close, too loud, when nothing seems to go right, will Henry ever find a friend, or will a friend find him? It's all about all the other kids in the class and how he's getting some relationships a little bit wrong, causing a few problems, not quite understanding. But in the end, he sorts it out. He starts to figure it out. And it's just a lovely story. I just love the illustration so much. What else is good? Here's one. Jen Malia is an autistic professor of English. She lives on the East Coast, and she has written a few picture books now. This was her first one, called Too Sticky: Sensory Issues with Autism. So this is a little bit more on the nose and a more, obvious approach to autistic problems. But it's beautifully written in this lovely little story. At school, they're supposed to work with slime in the science class. And this is just driving the little girl in the story. She just does not want to have to deal with playing with the slime in science class. And it kind of goes from there. But it's a great story, and it's a problem-solving story too. Like, what happens when you're asked to do something at school that you absolutely don't want to do? And, it's just going to be hard for you. How do you get people to understand and know? What else can I show you? Let's see. I think one that I actually really loved, but it's for older, for definitely high school YA, young adult, or even new adult, is Queens of Geek by Jen Wild, who is an autistic Australian author. And it is about 2 friends that decide to go to a Comic-Con here in California. And it's just about all the crazy, wild things that happen. They fall in love, out of love, they make new connections, they just have an adventure, and they're on the spectrum. And it's just, I thought it was really cool, really cool, geeky, queer, fun book. So if you like that kind of stuff, there's that one. A book that I thought was really wonderful for middle graders now, that came out about 2 years ago, I think. It's called 54 Things Wrong with Gwendolyn Rogers by Kayla Carter. And it is a novel, a story about this girl who, and she writes her stream of consciousness almost, way of speaking, because she has ADHD. It's mainly an ADHD story. That's her neurodivergence, and just her voice felt so genuine to me and so real. She just wants a diagnosis. She doesn't have a diagnosis at the beginning of this book. She knows something's wrong with her. She's in a special school at this point because she's been kicked out of another school. Nothing is going right. Her self-esteem is just taken such a bashing, and she is just trying to figure out what the heck is wrong with her, and her mother too. Her mother, she has a mom, and it's about their struggle. And she makes this list of 4 things wrong with her, because she hears a teacher referring to that. There's a big long list of things that were wrong with her. So it really touched me a lot, and I just thought it felt so genuine. So that's a great one. I could keep going. Do you want me to keep going, or are there any questions anybody has? Or
Sure, let's take a quick pause and see if anybody has any questions. You can type it in the chat or unmute yourself. And then if there's more, I'd definitely love to hear more. I can't believe so many stories.
Yeah, are there any questions that you guys have or anything?
I have a question. You mentioned A Kind of Spark and that it was a TV show in the UK.
Yeah.
That's so wonderful. Do you know if it's possible to watch it somehow here in the States?
I have tried so hard to find a way. I don't think it's available quite yet because it's brand new, but it's only a matter of time. Somebody's going to pick it up and it's going to be streaming somewhere, I'm sure, because it had such a huge popular reaction in the UK. And it was such a milestone, really, a story written by an autistic author for kids that is about an autistic character, and it just beautifully done. They did a really amazing series from it. So yeah, matter of time, we'll find it.
Yeah. What do you think about the TV shows that are kind of in the American psyche of featuring autistic main characters? Have you watched any, like Love on the Spectrum or any of those? What do you think about those?
Oh, I watched Love on the Spectrum and I just cry and cry and cry. I don't know why it touches me so much. I'm just like in tears half the time watching Love on the Spectrum. I don't think I've seen the latest season. I watched it last year, and just the first season it was out. It was just so lovely. Oh yeah, I did watch some of the second season too. Yeah, the second season is a little spicier. The first season was more heartfelt. It was in Australia, actually, the first season. I love that they're getting at all of these different examples of autistic people and showing the world that we're not all Sheldon Cooper from the Big Bang Theory, that everybody is so different, and that's okay, right? I mean, we can be really outgoing, we can be very quiet and not outgoing, we can be both things depending on the time of day. It doesn't, we're all so different. And up until now, there's just been this one story. And there's this wonderful article that this wonderful author named Chimamanda Adichie wrote called The Danger of a Single Story. And she meant it in terms of racism, how when we are stereotyping people, when we only have one main story to look to, or one main example to look to about what a group of people are like, it's so dangerous, because that stereotype becomes so monumentally important in people's minds and defines how they think about us. So when we only have Sheldon Cooper to look for, or we only had Dustin Hoffman and Rain Man, or it's just so wrong and so bad. That's why all of these books, that's why it is so important to have all of these stories, because if you only have 1 or 2 stories or 1 or 2 examples, it's doing such a large, diverse group of people such a disadvantage. So that's why I think all the stories are so great. And even TV, there haven't been very many more. There's Atypical, which had its issues in the first season, but then they became much more respectful in the second and third season. I think the first season of that show used its main character, autistic main character, kind of as comic relief. But I think it got way more aware as it went on, and I think it's a really good series. Although maybe some people would disagree. I don't know. It's fun to talk about these things and our different perceptions of them. What else is there? There's that wonderful Australian show. I always forget the name about it. I always forget the name. It's a young adult comic. What is the name of that show? Do you guys know it? Where he, because their common dad passes away from cancer, so he becomes the guardian of the two young girls.
Oh my gosh. I know what you're talking about too. I'm trying to look it up.
Yes, and one of the girls is autistic and one isn't, and the girl that's autistic is my hero. I just love her so much. What a totally out there character she is. She's so great.
Jeff says, I think it's Everything's Going to Be All Right. Is that?
Yes. Thank you very much. That's the name of it. Yeah. So, I think she's a great counterbalance to Sheldon Cooper, to have somebody like that out, in TV world showing us a different way to be. Yeah. So I'm trying to think of other examples of shows, and I'm not thinking of too many more. So, there too, of course, we need many more stories. It needs to keep going. And I think it will. I feel if you look at all of what's been published in just the past few years, I think we're on our way to getting a better understanding. And yeah.
Is that whole bookshelf behind you filled with books that are on a novel mind and that are about autistic characters? The whole
Not all, no, not all, not by any means. I wish, that would be the goal. That would totally be the goal. But a lot of them are like autism adjacent stories, just about kids that are othered or have different or other issues, like OCD. And here's a great one for the deaf community. If you guys don't know, CeCe Bells El Defo, which is her story about growing up as a kid. And she grew up in the 60s and 70s and had to wear this clunky hearing device on her chest, and she absolutely hated it. And it's a graphic novel depicting her history of being like a kid and having to wear this ridiculous thing, and how she was so afraid what the other kids were going to think about it. And it turns out it gave her a little bit of superpower, because it was like a receiver, and her teacher had the amplifier, for it on her chest. And once her teacher forgot to turn off the amplifier when her teacher went to the bathroom, and she could hear it, and she turned up her volume so all the kids in the class could hear their teacher going to the bathroom. And after that, they were like, "Oh, you're cool. We like you. Even though you're the deaf kid." It's just it's funny. It's sweet. It's just a great silly memoir. But again, these are stories that I don't know what the word is, not desensitize, but and not normalize. I don't want to say that either, but they just make it completely part of daily life, part of normal life.
Right.
And that's what's so beautiful about them.
Yeah. Are there books that have kids with multiple diagnoses, like OCD and autism, or like anything like that? OCD or autism and ADHD. I know a lot of our kids have multiple.
Yes. Yeah. More and more. I'm starting to suspect I have inattentive ADHD as well as autism. I know my nephew does as well. I think it's implied in some of these books, but maybe not outright, not outright. So yeah.
Right here.
Oh
yeah.
That's one of our audience members. Hi.
Yep. Yeah. Just raise your hand. Here's another deaf community book, and I haven't read it because I just got sent it yesterday, called Give Me a Sign. It's a young adult romance. So that's kind of interesting. Got deaf culture as well. There's the Goldfish Boy. This is an OCD book. The Goldfish Boy. He's up in his room, and also agoraphobia. So there's just various, it's like the neurodivergent minestrone soup of symptoms, where there's a little bit of everything in there. And he just won't get out of his room, but from his window, he witnesses what he thinks might be a crime. And it's really, really good book. Really good book. For young adult, again, this is more about depression and OCD. is so talking about, interweaving symptoms is John Green's Turtles All the Way Down. Everybody seems to know about that one. And that's a very good one. I didn't talk about A Boy Called Bat yet, did I? That's a really great book. I know I have it. Well, Alana K. Arnold wrote this really adorable book. Where is it? I'm sure I have it. Oh, well. A really adorable book called A Boy Called Bat. And he's an autistic, maybe second grader. So if you're looking for a book for like a second, third grade, that level, like this Ada and Zaz level of mine, look for also a series by Alana K. Arnold called A Boy Called Bat, B-A-T. There are 3 books in the series. That's a really great one too for that age range. What else?
Another question. You were mentioning that so many of these other authors in not so many. I know you mentioned there's not a ton, but in different countries, autistic authors. How many like ballpark do you know of that are in the US versus other countries, or like
most that I know are in the US. Yeah, I would say maybe there's 8, 9 of 10 of us. Yeah, and then like maybe 5 or 6 in the UK and 1 or 2 in Australia. All told, maybe we're about 15 or 20.
That's amazing.
That I've turned up so far. But sometimes we sit down, I sit down and try to make a list. I should do that again. So make a list to see how many of us are there. How many of us are there? It's fun to think. And it's really, I just get such a pleasure out of supporting their books too, because I feel like we're all on a common mission. It's really important. So
yeah, I love the resource that you came up with, A Novel Mind. That's really amazing, and that parents can access. And
yeah, there's, especially if you're a parent, the resource pages have so many links. And the resource pages were put together by an autistic librarian in Texas named Adriana White. She's really great. So she did that for us. And there's really, really great resources on reading, on helping your kid through school. If you're a teacher, the resources are there too for understanding, how and dealing with things in the classroom, and just all kinds of great resources. So
good to know.
Yeah.
Well,
I just noticed. Oh, here it is. This is A Boy Called Bat. That's what I was just talking about. It was right in front of me. Yeah, maybe you've seen it because it's a really famous series, but this is an age level where it's harder to find books, I think, just for those, second, third, fourth grade aged kids. And Bat is an autistic kid who his mom is a veterinarian and brings home a baby skunk. Somebody had brought a baby skunk into her veterinary clinic, and she brings it home, and Bat falls in love with the baby skunk. And it's just sort of the story about how he deals with that. And he has an obnoxious sister that's always like, oh God, Bat, do you have to? It's pretty cute. They're really sweet books.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing Benji with us. I love the story of the siblings and how they interact with each other. I think
sibling stories are really important.
That's why we have our sibling program, because we know the siblings get left behind sometimes, and they're dragged from doctor's office to doctor's office.
Yeah, absolutely. It happens in our family too.
Anybody else want to say hi to Sally, or just now's the time, now's your chance.
Hi, Sally. This is Jeremy Anderson. I'm a father of a 3-year-old autistic boy named William. So this has been awesome. And Autism Tree, thank you for hosting these. Catch as catch can, right? Doing 5 other things while this is happening, but just awesome. And thank you for everything you guys do.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. So nice to hear from you. And I totally agree. Autism Tree is amazing. What a resource. Oh, if I had had it when my kids were little, it would have been so great.
I think awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm so glad you're able to join us today. Oh, Jeff, you want to say something? Go ahead.
Yes, Sally. very, very great job on your presentation, and I'm looking forward to co-hosting the Living Autistically panel in November this at the Neurodiversity Conference.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it too. It's going to be an amazing conference. I may have to be there virtually, but we'll see how it goes.
Yep.
It's our second time doing it hybrid, so I trust it.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you for tuning in.
My pleasure.
Is there anybody else who wants to say hi?
Yes, I'd like to say hi. My name is Denise, and I am a librarian in New York.
Oh, wow.
And yes, and so I have your book, The Someday Birds, and in my collection, it's called the Learning Center, and we have a lot of books about autism and ADHD and OCD, and so I had tagged you one time, and you responded, and then I started following you, and I think your work is great to let us know about other books. So thank you. And that's why I'm tuning in to get these other book titles from you as well. Thank you.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. And best of luck with your learning center. That sounds
Thanks.
awesome that you have the books there too in it. That's great.
Thank you.
Cool. I'm glad to be connected.
What was her name from New York?
Denise.
Hi, Denise. It's so nice to have you on here. Where are you in New York?
In Westchester County, Chappaqua. I work at the Chappaqua Library in Westchester. And right now I'm packing to leave to Florida. But I've been I've had you on my iPhone and listening to the whole conversation. So I'm hoping that you'll give us a list of all the books that you talked about, because they sound great, and I want to share them with the children's room as well.
Yeah, definitely. I'll make a PDF of all of them for and then Autism Tree can send them to all you guys.
Okay, that'll be great. Thank you.
You can find a lot. I think you can find almost all of them too, but I'll do that for sure. But all of them also are on anovelmind.com. If you just scroll through the blogs there too, you can discover a lot of, or you can search our blog roll just for autism books and find out all of those, or any category that you want, really. So yeah, so that too. So cool. I was at the Chappaqua Book Festival for the first time last year. It was exciting.
And I wanted to, I couldn't make it to that. I was so disappointed because I knew you were there and I wanted to meet you. Yes.
That was massive. Oh my gosh. There's this book festival, you guys. This, I think, the biggest one on the East Coast, biggest children's book festival. I think there were 10,000 people there that day. Beautiful fall day. I was so blown I couldn't stay for the afternoon. I had to close up shop because I was in sensory overwhelm. I had to have my sister there to help me through it. And thank goodness she was. And we were next to this really nice other author who kind of helped us through too, because after a while I couldn't speak. So he was like telling people about my book as well as his. Because I can do really great, but like I can do really great for maybe an hour. I cannot do really great for 6 hours straight with 10,000 people coming in. It was so intense, but it was a really great experience, and everyone was so lovely. And what a beautiful town you have.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you so much, Sally. This was incredible.
Thanks. Oh, my pleasure.
Green. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Cheese. Beautiful. Okay.
All right. Everybody have a beautiful Friday. Sally, this was really special. I love it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
I said Friday. I meant Wednesday.
Wednesday. See, I thought it was yesterday. So we're all discombobulated. All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.